what Tinder is, but I am also not. I'm not on Gmail. Are you on Gmail? I'm not.
That's how you get email. What server are you on? What do you get your email on?
AOL. I'm the last of the.
What is this? 1947? DJ?
I'm on AOL. Me and everybody else over the age of 80 is still on AOL.
You would
so
never.
I'm on that.
Man.
I'm not on the Hulu, for the Facebook, nothing. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Saints look bad, the football team looks good, and Cleveland looks for a new nickname. But we begin today with the Buffalo Bills easily defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers last night, 26-15 in the rain and snow of Buffalo. Pitt is now 10-3, the third best record in football. So, Wilbon, is this a story about Buffalo ascending or Pittsburgh descending?
Tony, like a lot of these things, it may be both, but I cared yesterday as I watched that game about Buffalo. Buffalo playing in a little bit of snow, not a lot of snow like it used to be in the old days in December, but when you have that team, Tony, I can only imagine what it'd be like with that stadium full, with the way that community loves the Bills. And you know this, you've been there enough times over the years.
Sure.
And I look at Buffalo and they can do a lot of everything, starting with their quarterback. All right? I'm not going to get wild with predictions and say he needs to be the MVP or he's going to the Hall of Fame. But in this moment, okay, he can do everything that is required of a quarterback that needs to play in Buffalo. They can play in weather, you're right. They can play from behind if they have to. They can run the ball with the lead and play. They got enough defense to scare you that way. This is about the Buffalo Bills being maybe the second best team in the AFC to me.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because I will answer the question by saying this is about Pittsburgh descending. Even when they were 11-0, I had doubts about them because historically the other 11-0 teams, Pittsburgh's point differential was really rather marginal. I mean, I look at them now as a team that can't run the football at all. They pass all the time. Let me get the numbers right on Roethlisberger.
Too many passing, you're right. Too much passing.
Roethlisberger leads the NFL in pass attempts. In his last 5 games, he's averaging 47 passes a game. I look at Kansas City as significantly better than Pittsburgh because they've got, I know they don't win by wide margins, but they've got this gear they get to when they need it and they win games. To me, Mike, the receivers now on the Steelers, they drop the ball, drives Tomlin crazy.
Yeah.
To me, the Steelers look right now like a team that has hit the wall.
Maybe, but I think there's also a little bit of time to come back. And when you get your best running back and arguably your best lineman back, maybe it takes a couple weeks. And Pittsburgh had played like 3 games in, 12 days or whatever obscene, how little it was, Tony, between games. But Buffalo doesn't impress you? Everything you watched last night was about the Steelers?
Buffalo impresses me. I like the quarterback. He's a really good athlete. I like Stephon Diggs. Do you know the last time that Buffalo won a playoff game? Do you know this?
Was it with Jim Kelly? Was it like 25 years ago?
It's 25 years ago. So to me, to hop on, like sort of hopping on with Cleveland, you go, I got to see a little bit more.
I thought we saw enough last night. Yeah, look, there's still a few weeks left in the season, but I was impressed with the Bills. The Eagles coach says, reluctantly to me, that they're sticking with Jalen Hurts. The rookie quarterback led Philly to an upset of the Saints yesterday. He didn't throw a ton, but he ran for 106 yards, took no negative plays against one of the NFL's top-ranked defenses. That said, after the game, head coach Doug Peterson said the win wasn't about just one guy. Tony, tell me you're not with that junk.
Well, in the abstract, I believe things are not about just one guy. But specifically yesterday, I thought it was about one guy. I thought Jalen Hurts won that game. Neither you nor I are sure that he has an NFL arm. Here are the numbers. He had 167 yards passing and, as you say, 106 yards running. But he won that game. When was the last time Carson Wentz won a game? Don't even bother to look it up. No. It's November 1st. It's November 1st that Carson Wentz, it doesn't work for him right now. If whatever you want to say about Jalen Hurts, at least say this, that Philadelphia functioned better on offense with him than you have seen in a while with Carson Wentz.
And Doug Peterson didn't want to say that. Doug Peterson sounded like a scold, and I was angry listening to Doug Peterson. I said to you in real time, okay, let's not turn this into, exaggeration Monday and make Jalen Hurts Joe Montana. You don't need to do that. But Jalen Hurts didn't get sacked yesterday, playing behind an offensive line that you would think was the worst in football. It's not close to that. Jalen Hurts, here's what Carson Wentz does routinely, Tony, or had done since November 1st and before November 1st. Fumbles the ball, gets sacked, throws interceptions, and looks incompetent back there. Not like a starting quarterback, not like a guy who had been proclaimed one of the top 100 players in the league all summer long, okay? I am tired, as you know, of hearing about Carson Wentz, who was first overrated and now not worthy of being a starting quarterback. So there's that. And so if Doug Peterson is, sulking because Jalen Hurts has come in, and by the way, the GM there, picking Jalen Hurts seems to be a pretty good thing. Somebody there must have suspected that Carson Wentz was radically overrated and perhaps not a starting quarterback. Because this kid, I don't know how good he is, but he's a damn sight better than Carson Wentz.
So let's get to a couple of numbers that you might like. You mentioned that they had no negative plays, no sacks. In fact, he was pressured 14 times, Hurts, and they managed to gain over 80 yards while that happened. With Hurts, the Eagles average 6.3 yards per play. With Wentz, they average 4.8. And for context, 4.8 is averaged by the Bengals and 6.3 is averaged by the Packers. Shout out to Hembo on this. I think you have to stay with Jalen Hurts in the short term and maybe down the road. And you're going to have to eat all that money, perhaps, with Carson Wentz that you paid him.
Let me just say quickly. Shout outs to Hembo. Are we doing Get Up now?
Hembo.
You and Greeny tag teaming? All right, I'm just asking.
Hembo, these stats come from him. They don't come from me or from you.
I know they don't come from you. We don't pretend they come from me because I don't rely on them.
They don't. Somebody has to win the NFC East, I think. Now it looks like the Washington football team will. They beat the 49ers yesterday with a superb defensive effort led by rookie Chase Young, who was the number 2 overall pick in the draft. Young caused one fumble, then picked up another fumble and scored. And they also got a pick 6. Washington didn't do anything offensively, but didn't need to. Wilbon, I know you love defense, so is it time to take the WFT seriously?
Yeah, I took him seriously coming into this game, Tony. And you mentioned the big rookie, Chase Young. But also, let's mention Montez Sweat and John Bostic. And there are more people to mention, but we'll start with them. Because their front seven could be as good as anybody's front seven. I know there are teams that would argue with that, but that front seven is tremendous. That defense leads that team. And when you don't have to score an offensive touchdown anywhere and you can win the game, it says you have a defense that can keep you in it. I'm done talking about the NFC East being bad. It doesn't matter anymore. I know the Giants slipped up yesterday, but Philadelphia got a shot in the arm from a rookie quarterback. Dallas even won for what that's worth. That narrative is gone now. The Washington football team is going to get in the playoffs, and they can beat somebody in the playoffs, at least one somebody, Tony, and I think you agree with that.
So let's get to the numbers. They are 6th in points allowed and 4th in rushing yards allowed. Over the last 4 games, and they've won them all, they're only allowing 14 points a game. I mean, where does this come from? I think it comes from the fact that Ron Rivera and his defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, played defense in the league.
At a high level.
On a pretty high level.
At a high level.
On a pretty high level. And that matters to them. Now, what is their problem? Their problem is quarterback.
Yep.
Alex Smith went out yesterday with a calf injury to the bad leg. The bad leg that has had 3,000 surgeries already. If there's something truly wrong there, they're in trouble because they go to Dwayne Haskins, who Ron Rivera earlier in the year didn't like enough to not only not start him, but demote him to 3rd string. So this is a big opportunity for Haskins to show that he's worthy of being a first-round pick that he was. And what do they got left? I got 3 games left. Here we go. Seattle, Carolina, and Eagles. Seattle's a really tough game. But if they win 2 of those, they're 1 game up on the Giants. But if you fall back into a tie, because they've lost to the Giants twice, they would lose the tiebreaker.
Yeah, Tony, this is interesting, this whole quarterback situation. I mean, if Haskins doesn't recognize that this is his chance, he's got a chance now, right? Even if he's back in the backup role again next week, when you've got a guy who's had the serious injury he has, and you're a young player, you know these teammates, you know they're looking to you to say, how good is this kid? If you can't take advantage of that, that's a sad situation for him to come into the league with this much expectation, play for his hometown team. and not be able to sort of pick it up from here and help them across the finish line.
You've got them winning a playoff game. You have Washington winning.
Let me ask you something. Who in the NFC is so damn good that they can't lose a playoff game?
I'm just trying to pin you down.
I think the Washington football team, once they get in the playoffs, can win a playoff game. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a break.
Didn't the Eagles just beat the New Orleans Saints yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. That answers that question.
Good job out of you. Let's take a break. Coming up, Florida's head coach, another Wilbon pal, said the shoe toss that cost his team was a football play. Is he right about that?
No pal of mine. And we had a slew of firings across college football. Were they justified?
So Washington has beaten Pittsburgh and San Francisco 2 in a row. Those are pretty good.
Steelers 15, God, Pittsburgh. How 11-0 turned into 0-2 the last 2 weeks. Now looking up at Kansas City for the 1 seed. Back to being the team that they were just 2 weeks ago. And how signature a win for Buffalo.
I'm not sure they ever were the team that you thought they were, Tony, and other people thought they were because of that record. And, I don't know. I don't think they'll get back to whatever that was. They were slipping for 2 or 3 weeks before they lost to Washington. Then they followed that up with last night. They've seen the only bye in the AFC slide away to the Chiefs. And, Chris Collinsworth pointed out last night about not only do they not run the ball, they don't even try play action. They just keep Ben Roethlisberger back there in shotgun. You got 5 wide receivers. See if you can complete a pass to one of them. See if they don't drop it. They become very easier to defend. They don't score 20 points very often. And the offense has let down a great Steeler defense.
Emily Kaplan, when you hear Ben Roethlisberger say, we got to look ourselves in the mirror here, well, what do you think they're seeing back?
First, the only thing that's preventing this from being a signature win for the Bills is the lack of Bill Mafia and a ceremonial table smash before the game.
Okay.
That said, I am worried about the Steelers' offense. Their rush offense has totally disappeared. It's been the worst in the league since week 7, just 2.2 yards per carry the last 2 games. And I'm worried about Big Ben. He's clearly hobbled, clearly throwing the ball too much, and he has a relationship as such with his offensive coordinator that is too much latitude at the line of scrimmage. All he wants to do is throw the long ball. All he can't do right now is throw a long ball with good velocity.
Israel Gutierrez, let's take in the Steelers here. Again, Ben Roethlisberger said we got to look ourselves in the mirror. What's looking back at them right now?
Well, I was actually thinking about what the other quarterback said, Josh Allen, when he talked about at halftime being within a couple of points or leading by a couple of points and realizing, oh, there's nothing to be intimidated by here. And with the Steelers, the only thing there really was to be intimidated by was their record. Because, as Tim mentioned, they don't run the ball. They're not very tough on that side of the ball, right? And if you watch, and they talked about it in the early part of the game yesterday, how quickly Ben is getting the ball out when he is back there. And that, it felt like Buffalo knew that. It felt like they knew the short passing game was coming. You saw that first pick 6 was on a little short crossing pattern. And there's no intimidation factor there. There's no real style that says that's how the Steelers are going to beat us. You take away the running game, you take away the short passing game, then what do you have there? So I do think there's something missing there from the Steelers, and I don't think they can ever recover that 11-0 energy.
And Jackie McMullen.
Absolutely. When you talk about the running game, they take away the running game. I don't even know if they have to take it away because they're not even trying to run the ball. And, you have to wonder about James Conner. He came back from injury. You thought maybe he'd give him a lift. That hasn't happened. I can't help but think, and I know this was in the past, but I can't help think about Le'Veon Bell and what Le'Veon Bell would do for this football team. But I'm with Izzy. When I really start thinking about this football game, I'm thinking about the Buffalo Bills the whole time, Tony. I can't believe that the game that Josh Allen had. In the first half, they're pressuring him all over the lot. He stands in there, he takes hits, and then he comes back in the second half and just picks them apart. He was 7 for 14 on 3rd down.
Yeah.
That's an elite quarterback. It's time to call Josh Allen an elite quarterback.
Okay, it is.
23 rushing
Very
touchdowns.
True. That is a banned word in the show. You didn't use it once. You used it twice. So you're going consecutive sentences there for Jackie McMullen. But let's dig deeper here on the Buffalo Bills.
Elite's elite, dude.
The possibility that they are the second best team in this conference. Now, maybe we're going to see the second best team in the conference tonight. Tim Kalishow, what did Buffalo show you?
They are. I believe they are. I think the Colts might, by the time of the playoffs come, be battling with Buffalo for that. I think Pittsburgh is just in that group But Buffalo, they do a little bit of everything, and their defense, as much as we malign the Pittsburgh offense, their defense showed a lot last night. They make big plays. They turned the game around with the interception, with the pick six right before halftime. So I think they're a complete team.
Israel Gutierrez?
I do think that they're a complete team. I think they're going to be a lot of trouble. I love the season that Stephon Diggs is having. It must feel great coming from Minnesota and then having this season. He is a technician out there. It must be so much of a relief to have that sort of a security blanket if you're Josh Allen out there, knowing that if he's not open initially, if you sort of let the play drag on a little bit, he will get open for you. He's been amazing all season.
Amazing. That's a word we'll use for now. It's not banned yet. It could be banned in the very near future. Jackie Mack, it was like you were walking into rakes and you were just hitting them one after the other. We knew the AFC playoff picture was going to crystallize this week. The NFC, that's a shocker. Number one in your conference, number one in your hearts. Green Bay, by way of win over Detroit. New Orleans, the stunning loss to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Let's start with Hurts and how versus the number one defense, a flesh-eating defense. Hurts rose to the occasion and got the 24-21 win. None of you thought this could happen. How did this happen, Israel Gutierrez?
You're right. I definitely didn't think this could happen. But if it was going to happen, it was going to be sort of this element of surprise. And even though the Saints is a great front seven, obviously a great defense, and they practice against a mobile quarterback, you can't really anticipate having a guy run for 100 yards against you, right? And you had Miles Sanders out there taking 8 yards every carry out there. So obviously there was something going really well with that Philly offensive line, and it was very confusing with the Saints defense there. But in terms of Jalen Hurts, he is just a lot more decisive. He knows he has those legs as weapons as opposed to Carson Wentz, who was always sort of just a last-ditch effort there. And if you just look at the yards per play, 6.3 with Hurts out there, 4.8 with Wentz out there. That's a huge difference. That's a difference between the Chiefs and I believe the Browns in terms of yards per play. It is vast difference, but I don't know if it's just, hey, teams are never going to figure out Jalen Hurts. I think they eventually will. This just came as a shocker because it was against that defense.
Emily Kaplan, what did you see?
I don't want to use the same E word that Jackie used, but I will use Israel's word, decisive. And that's what Jalen Hurts was. He avoided sacks, and his legs were a difference maker. It's coincidental or not, but this was the best called game by Philly this year. It's so funny. When you give Miles Sanders touches, he tends to do good things. I know my Penn Staters know what I'm talking about. As it pertains to Hurts, though, you watch him and you're like, how can he not be the starter the rest of the year? And then you see Doug Peterson in his post-game press conference start to bungle the words, and you realize there were higher powers at play. Maybe there was interference. Maybe Doug Peterson doesn't have full autonomy. And maybe he doesn't want to fully admit, even though he did it today, that Jalen Hurts is a starter going forward, because that admits mistake on his past, because he should have done this weeks ago.
Tim, was this more about Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts for you, or the Saints giving away that 1 seed?
There has to be a little bit about the Saints. There was nothing in the last 3 years. They hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher in 3 seasons since 2017. And then they gave up 2 in 1 day to Sanders and Hurts. This was their 3rd straight game on the road. That they've got the division well in hand, and maybe they're not thinking that much about the Packers and what's at stake there. But anyway, for the Eagles, I just think the energy Hurts gave him. He didn't play great. He didn't throw the ball great. But now you feel like, hey, this guy might give us a chance. The other guy was dragging us down. This guy may propel us forward.
Jackie Mack.
Sometimes it's as simple as that, isn't it, Tim? Sometimes you just need a change. Sometimes you fire the coach, and a new coach comes in, and everything changes. And I think that's exactly what happened with this team. They responded to Jalen Hurts. They looked like they were having fun, Tony. When's the last time you saw the Philadelphia Eagles having fun? And here's the other thing. When Jalen Hurts was being pressured, you know what he got? 82 yards for his team. How many negative yards? 0. That was not happening with Carson Wentz. That's a huge difference.
I think you all agree the 1 seed is more important this year than any year in previous.
Front runner at this point. And the Saints loss gives you some pause, but I think Drew Brees will be back. I hope he isn't back next week, because I don't think you should do that if you're the Saints. You should wait till he's totally healthy. So I'm not going to judge the Saints without Brees. And on the other side, Kansas City wins. It's, I think, their 5th consecutive game with wins under a touchdown.
Yeah, 1 possession.
That makes you a little nervous, but I still believe in Patrick Mahomes. But as you can tell, I'm suddenly very passionately in love with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, so I suppose anything can happen now.
Okay. Israel Gutierrez, are you recalibrating the conferences after this weekend?
I feel like we do that every week in the NFL. Not so much in the NFC because I believe that the Saints one is just too hard to read. You know, it's just one of those games, like everything we talked about earlier. I do think that Kansas City is interesting, right? They needed a special teams touchdown there. They needed a missed field goal by the Dolphins kicker, who might be the best in the league. They needed a strange safety by Tua. And yet they give up 3 interceptions Patrick Mahomes threw, and they still won. So it's just like, what can you do to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm not recalibrating there. I'm just saying they weren't playing very well. And so if they actually, meet up against a team that can finish the job, maybe they're in a little bit of danger. But man, how can you beat them when you do all that and they still win?
Emily Kaplan.
Yeah, Chiefs had one bad quarter. They're still the best team in the AFC. As for the NFC, I just want to say one thing about the Green Bay Packers. I live in NFC North Country. I know the way everybody else views Green Bay. They think they're the team that gets all the calls. They had 12 penalties against the Lions on Sunday. They weren't getting all the calls, and they still found a way to win. That's impressive.
Tim Kalishaw.
You mean when they beat the Colts